pen pals on LinkedIn. I would tell him our story and how thankful I was, and he was so kind and sweet and thanked me for, thanking him. He's just a sweet old man. His wife was there too. I met his brother. His brother was a great doctor. We talked a bunch, and they were, his wife was so tickled with the t-shirts we had made, getting him to look like, like the Godfather from the movie The Godfather. We used his picture.
Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast, the show that inspires, promotes, and gives you a daily dose of inspiration from the people who have used cannabis to change their lives in extraordinary ways. Here's your host, Justin Benton.
Welcome back to the Miracle Plant Podcast, where we discuss this miracle plant with so many names and how it's helping people in so many extraordinary ways. Well, folks, today is, it's a bit of a sad day, to be honest. I do want to have a positive spin on it, that the godfather of cannabinoid medicine has passed away, Dr. Rafael Mechoulam. Many believe he should have won the Nobel Peace Prize many, many years ago for his extraordinary work with research on the cannabinoids. Back in the early 1960s, in 1963 and 1964, Dr. Rafael Mechoulam was the first person to be able to find and research specifically cannabidiol, CBD, as we know it, and as we know it as CBDA. If it wasn't for his work, I don't know where my son would be, his health. I don't know where my family would be. I don't know where millions and potentially billions of people's lives would be. He was a mountain of a man. We talk about Steve Jobs and making your dent in the universe, and Dr. Rafael Mechoulam, affectionately known as Rafi, definitely did that. So I wanted to pay tribute to Dr. Rafael Mechoulam. We got a chance to meet him one time, and it was one of the greatest blessings of my life. The first blessing was the research that he did that proved that CBD in the 1970s helped children with epilepsy. And it was his breakthrough research was what led parents like Paige Figi, Charlotte Figi's mom, to go and find this CBD, this cannabidiol, this miracle plant to help with her daughter and seizures, which led to the passing of the 2014 Farm Bill that descheduled hemp. So we could grow it as American farmers again, just like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson did. And it was the miracle plant that helped clear the fog for my son with his severe neurological diagnosis of late-stage autism at the age of 3. So, but again, the time that we had a chance to meet was in 2019 at CannMed, which is an amazing collection of doctors and researchers talking about cannabis. CannMed, get it? It was out here in Pasadena, California, and the second I found out that Dr. Rafael Mechoulam was going to be flying in from Israel to be the keynote speaker, we booked a booth. We got a bunch of us down there. We all piled into an orange VW bus and loaded up our camper and set up our booth, and it was just a magical time. After we set up our booth, the next morning, he was going to be kicking off the conference as the keynote. And we could see next door where the stage was. So at like 7 in the morning, I was at the gym, and some of us that were down there, I said, hey, run down to the front row. Well, first I was down there. I ran down to the front row, and I was like, it's wide open right now. So I said, let's all get some backpacks and books, and let's get the front row, right front row and center. Because I knew he was going to come on at like 8 in the morning. And so a bunch of us were holding seats and laying down in front so we could have the front row seats. There must have been over 1,000 or 2,000 seats in the room. And so I just remember when he came out, it was very emotional for me. Here he is, a doctor, a researcher, and he comes out on stage and he gets a roaring, thunderous, standing ovation for it must have been 5 minutes. And I had tears in my eye. he is the godfather of cannabinoid medicine. Like he is the one who did the research, who first did the research, who proved to the world the power, proved it scientifically, the power of this miracle plant. And it was at that conference that he revealed that the acid, or the acidic precursor of the cannabinoids, in our case we're talking CBDA, the A stands for acid or acidic, that's what the plant makes. He came to reveal that the CBDA was up to 1,000 times more effective, because our body knows what to do with whole plant, raw, organic plants versus synthesized, isolated, chemical compounds of just trying to manufacture the molecular structure of CBD. So it was a breakthrough for us and our organization. It was the proof that we needed to show the world that raw CBDA, raw cannabis, raw hemp, whatever you want to call it, is the full potential of the plant. And of course, we saw it with our own eyes with my son. And I just want to, pay tribute to a legend. Unfortunately, I think, and I've played golf with Cheech Martin, and a lot of people think of Tommy and Tommy Chong and Cheech and Chong when they think of cannabis, and yeah, they're hilarious. I mean, don't get me started. Up in Smoke is a hilarious movie, but that's the side that was demonized of the plant. The intoxicating effects and the whole stoner thing. Whereas, and that was what, in 1937 with Reefer Madness, when they passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which made hemp illegal. Even hemp that has no psychoactive effects, rope, paper, clothes, was made illegal because of the industrialists and the cotton and the wood industries didn't want to compete with it, because it was such a versatile plant that they lumped that in there as well. But it was hidden from us from 1937. The power of this plant, this miracle plant, especially in the raw form, and its healing powers for our bodies to find homeostasis or balance. And if you listen to previous episodes, it was hidden from us and disguised and misinterpreted 1,700 years ago when they mistranslated the word cannabosum to calamus, when cannabosum was the original word for cannabis in Hebrew, aromatic cane or aromatic hemp. And they translated it to a marshy plant called calamus I would have to imagine and think for malicious reasons, to hide the plant from us again. But in 1963, Dr. Rafael Mechoulam came out with the science to prove once and for all that this cannabidiol or cannabidiolic acid, CBDA, is a healing compound and a healing plant. And he did research in the 1970s, and he released it, that they studied 9 children with epilepsy. And all 9 children took CBD or hemp for these epileptic seizures. And all 9 children either had a drastic reduce, and I think all, but I'll have to double check. My mom can back me on this one. I know all 9 had a drastic reduction or complete remission of the seizures. I want to say it was 8 that didn't have seizures during this study, no longer had seizures. And I believe 1 may have had a few. So we'll double check on those stats. But anyways, regardless, when 9 children take a plant and the seizures either go away drastically or go away, period, that is a medical breakthrough. That should be on billboards, that should be as well known as aloe vera for sunburn. And he put that out in the 1970s, and he thought, when he was giving his talk at the 2019 CannMed, when we were sitting in the front row, he thought that was it, that he had done his work. He had researched in the 1960s, he had about cannabidiol and cannabidiolic acid, and then he had done the research and he had done the studies with a control group, and he was going to release it, publish it in the 1970s, and that was going to set the plant free. That was going to change modern medicine. That was going to change the healthcare system. That's what his belief was, because the science was there. It was proven. It was undeniable what this compound, what this plant did for children with seizures. And when he was on the stage, on the front stage at CannMed 2019, he admonished the healthcare system, the medical system, the world who hid this research. He's like, here it is, 40 years later, 40 years after I released this study showing what this plant could do for children. And we are just now having this conversation. There are still children in our country and all over the world, because America is a beacon of light for so many that they just follow lockstep. Like we've had doctors from Australia and others that have said they just do what America does. That 40 years later, there are still children in our country that do not have access to this plant. He admonished the healthcare system. How dare you? How dare you allow suffering to go on for profit? And it was chilling, because as the leading researcher and cannabis scientist, 92 years old, we just lost him here. He had done his job better than anyone had ever done it. He had shown the research, he had shown the studies, and the truth was hidden for 40 years. Until 2014, we began to unlock the truth with the passing of the Farm Bill, and then the 2018 passing of the Farm Bill. And people are still confused and still denied access to this plant, even in the hemp CBD form. Kristen Selby Gonzalez was on here recently, and her son, who was on the spectrum, had his appendix removed, and he had major complications, and he was fighting for his life in the hospital in Southern California. And she had to hide the fact in her purse. She had to hide the miracle plant oil and give it to him when the nurses weren't there or the doctors weren't there. And if you listen to the podcast, she's on a previous podcast recently, she will tell you undeniably her son would not be here with us or in the shape, as good a shape as he is right now, without that miracle plant oil. And even once or twice, some nurses saw something, or there was a topical roll-on for pain that she saw in the room, and she was told, you can't have that in here. We've got a long ways to go, but Dr. Rafael Mechoulam is the one who blazed the trail for all of us. So to Rafi, we will carry the torch. You led the way. You gave us the tools. You gave us the research. You gave us the science. And thank you. Thank you. So I want to also introduce to the stage Janet Benton-Gaylord, my mom, head of research and development for 101cbd.org. She was there at CannMed in 2019, sitting front row with us. Any thoughts on Dr. Rafael Mechoulam?
I certainly am, and I just have been so impressed with him. And we called him the Godfather of CBDA, which, by the way, his story is hilarious too. So he was a researcher; he's an organic chemist, and a friend who was a policeman gave him a pound of marijuana or some form of it that he had confiscated, and that's how he began his research on it, because it was, again, true, nothing was legal at the time. And he began originally, like everybody does, with the plant, because the most noticeable thing is, it's THC, you can get high. So he started looking at that, but he started doing his chemistry analysis, and the first cannabinoid he found was the CBDA. And then he also then found that a THC and the THCA and all of those. And then he spent time researching in that whole area. But it's kind of frustrating that, again, too, like he was led, here's the first one that you find, the CBDA, and especially in hemp, it is the major cannabinoid, and it's the raw form that the plant makes. And so it was very fascinating, like Justin had mentioned, how excited we were, because we had started out when we were creating a product for his son, my grandson, to deal with autism, I'll say the word. We decided it had to be holistic, raw, whole plant, organic, and the CBDA. And this our whole company was founded and continues to function on that. And it was just this huge, backup or validation of what we'd done when we went to CannMed, and Dr. Mechoulam was there to present on CBDA, the raw form. And it was also kind of funny. So we have all of our booth and everything is related to Dr. Mechoulam because we knew he'd be there, the Godfather, but also on CBDA, the raw form. And it was pretty funny that people would come to our booth and they'd say, like, how did you already know about CBDA? Because that time people were well aware of THC and CBD was taking the storm. Everybody was doing CBD. They said, how did you already know about CBDA? And I said, well, the research made it really clear. And plus, we're holistic. And so as soon as we started looking at creating a product, it had to be the raw organic whole plant form of it. And so again, two people were just like, oh, you're trailblazers here. And sadly, we're still trailblazers, as Justin mentioned. The CBDA has still not spread as widely at all as it needs to. And the majority of products using hemp still stay at the CBD, which is the heated variety. And often it's not organic or whole plant or any of the things that we value as holistic healers. But anyway, so Dr. Mechoulam, one thing he also presented that day was that, so he's been a researcher forever. He's published over 450 articles. And he was also a professor of medical chemistry at Hebrew University. And he also discovered the endocannabinoid system. He started looking at the endocannabinoids. And which is also sad that I do consultation and very few people realize that our bodies make cannabinoids or that we have an endocannabinoid system. And so he again too discovered that. But he had been focusing toward the end of his research the last few years, and he had international contacts of many students he'd trained and other researchers. And so he analyzed all that research and before he came to CannMed, and he presented there that CBDA, the raw form, was 10 to 100 up to 1,000 times more powerful than CBD or THC, especially in the area of healing. And for instance, the 1,000 times related to studies of nausea. And you often hear people talking about, oh, I need to have some THC because I'm having nausea from chemotherapy or something. But he showed that the CBDA was 1,000 times more powerful. And again, too, so that's why we just it finally validated everything we had done. And by the way, talking about Dr. Mechoulam, it's important to note that he was part of a group called the Genius 100. I mean, literally the top Genius 100 in the world. And then so many of the people, because it involved cannabis, he did not get the recognition that he should have. And as Justin mentioned, he should have gotten a Nobel Prize. I mean, for research and science, it was what he did was incredible. And to unlock this incredible plant that can help, and besides all the healing things in terms of just like food and concrete and clothing and and it also helps heal the soil. But anyway, but it's been his mission throughout life to make that more widely known. And then one focus he had at the conference was so medical researchers, and I've talked to quite a few of them myself, don't want to study the raw whole plant. They don't seem to be set up for that. And so he actually made a chemical version of the CBDA for medical research. So it's like, okay, you guys aren't using this yet. Here's the molecule you can use to research with. And so that was his other contribution to make the CBDA more available for researchers. And I haven't actually read too many studies using that yet, but I'm sure they're out there somewhere. But anyway, Justin mentioned too, just the astounding approval rates everybody had for him and the cheering and cheering when he came to speak. And by the way, with this podcast, we can put the link to that speech in there. We still have that. And also, it'd be funny, we have a picture that was published of all of us at our booth honoring him from that CannMed get together or big thing there. And so again, too, we can't emphasize enough that this man devoted his life to this plant and getting also the idea of using natural products for healing. And so we're all just super sad that he did pass away because who knows what else he would have done. He continued always to find new ways. And he also trained and worked with so many other researchers to spread the word and do the research around the world. So again, too, it's just kind of shocking and sad. We always relied on him as one of our major researchers to back up what we were doing. And so I guess all we can say now is we just hope that even if he's passing, maybe they will be summarizing his research, or again, too, it'll be the spark people need to become aware of CBDA and actually use it more with healing instead of constantly focusing on THC and the heated and processed CBD.
I just remember the honor. I mean, we have a picture with him wearing a shirt. We have him in like a Godfather costume on T-shirts we were wearing, and we had it on our booth, and we'll have those pictures up on the podcast show notes. And it was an honor of a lifetime. I mean, it was meeting a living legend, and we were pen pals on LinkedIn. I would tell him our story and how thankful I was, and he was so kind and sweet and thanked me for, thanking him. He's just a sweet old man. His wife was there too. I met his brother. His brother was a great doctor. We talked a bunch, and they were, his wife was so tickled with the T-shirts we had made, getting him to look like, like the Godfather from the movie The Godfather. We used his picture, and my wife Molly actually is a brilliant, person who could do those kinds of things with computers, and so she actually mocked that up, and it was great. And instead of like a little rose in his lapel, it was a little like hemp seedling in there. And anyways, we'll have those pictures up on the podcast. And yeah, I just found out this morning as we're doing I don't really follow the news that close, and actually I saw it on an Instagram feed from some of my friends and influencers that were paying tribute to Dr. Rafael Mechoulam, and that's how I found out. So I just knew that I had to do a live podcast to pay tribute to this man. He is the most influential person I know in cannabis. It might have been Jesus Christ if the truth wasn't hidden in 1700 years ago when they mistranslated the word cannabosum from Hebrew to Greek, and they turned it into calamus. But regardless, the toothpaste is out of the tube, and there's no putting it back. Now that Americans and people all over the world have tried CBD or hemp for, even if it's just aches and pains, and the aches and pains go away without side effects, you can't unlearn that. There's no Men in Black where you have that little wand that erases people's memories. Right now, the goal has shifted from teaching people about CBD to teaching people about the differences of CBD. And that's what Dr. Rafael Mechoulam was always such a champion for. His last living legacy was researching the acidic precursors of all the cannabinoids. So CBDA, CBGA, CBCA, there's over 100 cannabinoids. Those are, cannabidiol is a cannabinoid. CBD is a cannabinoid, just so you understand. And so he was doing his last research, and he lived 92. I mean, let's face it, like, sign me up for 92. That's a heck of a run. But like my mom said, how much more research would he have been able to do if he had lived another, 5 or 10 years? And I think the average male expectancy is like 75. So he got a bonus, 17 or so. And so he was just, he's a hero to so many of us. And he's helped millions of families all over the world with his research just by getting it out there. I don't know where we would be as a planet if it wasn't for his work. Just showing that, again, he released this. He did the research in the 60s. He released the studies in the 70s. And he's been releasing studies ever since. Showing, first in the 70s, it was that this plant can, specifically the CBD or the CBDA, can help reduce or eliminate seizures. I mean, the fact that every American, every human that has access to a phone or a screen doesn't know that, that's the mission to heal the world, right? The mission to reach 1 billion people and then heal 1 billion people, as my wife told me the other day. She goes, it's not good enough just to reach 1 billion people about the power of this miracle plant. We need to heal 1 billion people with the power of this miracle plant. And the healing can just mean something as simple as you sprained your ankle and you put on some topical, reduce the swelling and the inflammation and the pain naturally without chemicals or side effects. That's a start. A lot of our products that we give out for free for people to try is the roll-on, because it's simple, it's easy, it works for pain, it works for bug bites, scratches, rashes, even cold sores. Skin blemishes, precancerous or cancerous spots, tumors, reduces those. All of that research is out there. Dr. Rafael Mechoulam was a part of all of that. He truly is the Godfather. So we will carry the torch. We will continue to teach and educate. And it was an honor of a lifetime to get to meet him, to get to know him, to learn from him, to spread his research to everyone I've come across. I have never said anyone's name more often. I've never quoted one researcher, one doctor more than him. He is the source. He is the source. He did his work. May he rest in peace. May he, and his transition into the afterlife. And I know he's still here with us and looking down to see what we do with this information now. Now it's on me and it's on you. The proof is there. Go look him up. There'll be notes in the show notes, and you can go do all the PubMed.gov. Just type in Dr. Rafael Mechoulam, Mechoulam, Rafael. And all the studies are there. And what a legacy he's left. I personally vow to continue his legacy, because I was doing it when he was alive, and I'll do it when he's no longer physically here. But what a man, what an honor, what a blessing he's been for my family, for my son, and millions, if not billions, of other people and families in the future. So anything else, Mom, before we wrap up?
Just again to repeat what you said, he's just been an inspiration, but beyond that, because in the world we live in, people demand facts. The fact that he has published so many studies and did such total groundbreaking work, even to figure out that there was more to this pound of marijuana than just something to get high. And then I also like that toward the end of his life, what he focused on was the raw CBDA. And I can't tell you how many times I say it when I'm talking to people that don't know the difference between CBD and CBDA, that I repeat his comment or his statement that the CBDA, the raw whole plant, when you don't not heat the hemp plant, is 10 to 100 up to 1,000 times more powerful than CBD and THC. And to me, just that legacy of saying that and having that research behind it makes all the difference in terms of explaining it to people, and also showing that we are doing what we do by using only CBDA. We are doing it by learning from the master, or the godfather of hemp, or CBD or THC, or whatever you want to call him, maybe the endocannabinoid godfather. That his legacy is amazing, that he gave honor back to this plant that we as humans have used forever, that we literally have in our bodies. We evolved with it in our bodies. We have receptors for it. We make it. He literally brought this plant alive and gave proof, the scientific proof, so people can use it and not just keep ignoring it. So no, we owe a great debt to him. And I think everybody who's been healed using CBDA or even CBD owes him a debt of gratitude. And I don't know if they give Nobel Prizes posthumously, but he would certainly be deserving of one.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I've already signed petitions, and I've had some grassroots efforts and been involved in getting him the Nobel Peace Prize. But again, because of the stigma of the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act passing and the demonization of the plant, it was they wouldn't give him that Nobel Peace Prize for his contribution to mankind and science because it was too controversial. And as Americans, we bear the brunt of that. We own that one. We stole that Nobel Peace Prize from this man. He was born in Hungary and lived and grew up in Israel. And, because of, nefarious intention, this plant was hidden from us, and its healing powers were hidden from millions upon millions of Americans and billions of mankind around the world. But again, our mission is to reach 1 billion people by 2025. We're doing so many exciting things to see that that comes true, but we need your help. And how you can help is share this podcast. Rate and review this podcast. If someone out there needs to hear this podcast, is confused about cannabis or hemp or the healing benefits of this plant, forward this podcast to them. It's simple. Just forward it. Let them have a listen. Because the truth will set you free. And Dr. Rafael Mechoulam was the founder of truth and research and science, scientifically proving, like I said in the beginning, it was the children in the 1970s that when they introduced this plant for children with severe epilepsy and seizures, and like I said, I believe it was 8 out of 9 had no seizures while they were taking the CBD, and the one had like a few, but a drastic reduction from where it was. And we'll get some more, we'll quote that study and get that out there too as well. You can look it up as well. It's in the 1970s, Dr. Rafael Mechoulam, pubmed.gov. Just type his name in. You'll see hundreds of research studies that he's involved in. So again, I just, I'm sad he's no longer here with us, but he did his work. I mean, you want to talk about making your life count, what with the time that you have. He put in so much effort. I mean, think about it. From 1963 to the year 2023. What is that, 60 years? 60 years of research? 60 years of researching this plant. 60. This was his only thing, was cannabis, hemp, CBD, CBDA, and what a legacy he leaves. I mean, he is going to go down in the annals of time. You know, when 25 years from now, 100 years from now, people will look back and they will point the finger to Dr. Rafael Mechoulam as the man who reversed the egregiousness that this plant has suffered and mankind has suffered. Because they hid this plant from you. They hid this plant from me. And again, it is our mission to reach 1 billion people by 2025 about the power of this miracle plant, especially in the raw form. And we owe a debt of gratitude to you, Rafi. So anything else, Mom, before we wrap up?
Nope. Again, too, just sadness, but just not really so much sadness because we have to appreciate what he did. And we could all hope to have a life as fulfilling and as important as his.
Well, on the count of 3, we're going to say heal the world. This one goes out to you, Rafi. I know you're up there. I can feel your spirit. Thank you for all you've done. We will take the torch. We will carry it on. We will educate. We will pick up where you left off. You did your work, man. Here's to you. On the count of 3, we're going to say heal the world. So he can feel it and feel those vibrations. He has meant the world to so many of us. So on the count of 3, let's say heal the world. 1, 2, 3.
Heal
the world! Thanks for coming by the Miracle Plant Podcast. Be sure to rate, review, pass this out, get this out, forward this out to somebody. Everybody needs to know the name Dr. Rafael Mechoulam. What a beautiful man, what a beautiful soul, what a contribution to mankind. Be a blessing, everybody, and happy healing.
Thanks for listening to today's show. To check out more great cannabis podcasts, go to podconnects.com. Here's a preview of one of our other shows.
Hey there, this is Cheryl Murray Powell Esquire, and I'm the host of the Terps in the City podcast. I am a cannabis agricultural dietary supplement and trade attorney. I'm also a hemp farmer, and I've been recently named to the list of High Times Magazine's top 100 influencers in cannabis. I'm inviting you to follow me along my journey as I move back to New York to support the adult use market there. You're going to get a chance to listen to conversations with some of my friends along the way. I look forward to seeing you at Terps in the City.